This is To the Front. Tools for today's top agents.
Agents, listen up. I'm going to tell you the most important thing that I think you're going to hear maybe ever. And here it is. Are you ready? Quit doing it all yourself. There it is. That's going to be the best advice that you hear for the next 3 years, is that you were never called to be Superman, Superwoman, Spider-Man, whoever your character is. But too often I see agents, business owners trying to do it all yourself. And then you spend all of your time doing tasks that could potentially go to somebody else. But you decide that you need to keep it all within your grasp. And then guess what hurts? Your agency doesn't grow. You lose sleep. You're tired. You're exhausted. You don't have time for the things that really matter the most in your life. So that's what episode number 29 of To the Front is about today. And here's the title: Quit Doing It All Yourself, the Power of an Executive Assistant. And to talk about this, there's nobody else I can bring on in the world other than my friend Chasity Hawkins. Chasity, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome, man. I'm telling you, this is why I can only bring on you, Chasity, because Chasity, you are the CEO. This is for everybody else. You already know who you are. But Chasity is the CEO of Agency Resource Solutions, ARS, and Sidekicks. And they are the number one, they are the preeminent agency business that helps captive insurance agents, specifically one company, resource their agencies in creative ways. But even better, now they have a product that helps with the agent to have an executive assistant. And I'm going to tell you, I hired an executive assistant 6 months ago and my life has changed. Yes. And so today, that's what we're going to talk about. Quit doing it all yourself, the power of an executive assistant. And we want to hear from you, Chasity. So how was that intro? Did I knock it out of the park? Maybe?
Nailed it.
Cool. Well, Chasity, before we get going, tell our listeners a little bit more about you. Again, if they've been hiding under a rock and they don't know, that would be the only way they wouldn't know. Tell us about maybe your family, how you got started with ARS and Sidekicks.
Yeah, well, that was a great intro. Thank you, Adam. I'm Chasity. I am coming to you from Greenville, South Carolina. That's the headquarters of both ARS and Sidekicks at the moment. We're a mobile company, so we've moved a few times, but that's where we've landed for now and probably for the foreseeable future. Married to my husband, Paul, who actually co-owns and helps runs Sidekicks. And I have two beautiful girls. One is almost 13, a whole vibe we've got going in our house.
That's right.
And then we have one that's almost 10, and they keep us busy. Our life is fun. They keep us young. And I'm grateful to be able to do this and be a mom to them and be a wife to Paul. So that's a little bit about my personal family. My mom, Melanie, many may know her name. Melanie Yates. She's the one that she's the reason that I'm sitting here. She birthed me. So there's that reason. She started Agency Resource Solutions at this point, almost 14 years ago. She figured out how to work remotely for insurance agents and came up with a process, and literally agents beat down her doorstep to help her with this process that streamlined things. That took it out of the office. They started making money, and she just wanted to be home to watch my baby because I was practicing law. And so that's how this whole thing started, was a mom that wanted to be home, figured out how to work remotely. And then here we are almost 14 years later.
Wow.
With 5 products, 2 companies. And she has recently handed the reins of that company over to me this year. So ARS, I was very much behind the scenes helping her grow it over the last several years. But now I'm the chief. And then 2 years ago, we spun off Sidekicks, which is the main topic of today, because that's the company that offers the executive assistant program. But my husband and I, a couple of years ago, we were like, their agents really need help. And over the years, the ARS brand, we created this trust with this whole, with our audience and with all of our customers. And so they know we're going to do right, we're going to do it well, and that we keep it cost effective, we treat people well, and provide a solid product, we feel. And so agents kept asking us, surely there's a way you can help, you can help, you can help. Surely there's something else. Give us other things to hire. And so 2 years ago, we're like, okay, fine, let's do it. Let's launch a company. So my husband came on board, quit his day job. We didn't collect a paycheck out of that company for 6 months.
Wow.
And we took this leap of faith because we believe in it and we believe in the agents and all of the trust that they placed in us. And we wanted to help and feel the need. And so we started that company with the executive assistant, the executive sidekick program, and a service sidekick. And then we've grown 2 more products this year that we launched. So and here we are 2 years in. So that we now serve between the 2 companies, 6,000 or so agents.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible. So what a blessing to do it all from home, be a mom, be a wife, be a business owner, be a CEO, and get to do things like this.
Like that.
People. So there you go. How was that?
That's perfect. You know, when I talk to agents every day that use ARS, they use Sidekicks, and they don't know how they would operate their agency without those things. You know, and again, to do anything over 14 years means your product has to be quality. You're not going to be in business very long if it's not quality. But I always love going to events with you, Chasity, you and your team, because when it breaks, everybody floods the ARS table. Now, I don't know how much of it is because you have really good chocolate, because I come and steal that myself.
Look, chocolate's the key. Chocolate's the secret. Don't tell anyone.
But they flood your table. And the crazy thing is that most of the people are already your customers. Just because of how many agents that you serve. So, but again, today the topic is about getting agents to stop doing everything themselves. And so we've probably found that for them to be able to outsource the service work was probably a pretty easy jump for them. But when it comes to like an executive assistant, I'm sure that you hear some excuses from agents about who try to do all of these executive sort of details, all these executive tasks themselves. Okay. So what are some of those excuses that you hear? Because I will tell you, I talk to agents every day. It's all I do every day, other than host this podcast and chase my kids around, that they are overwhelmed with what I would call minutia. And I'm not saying minutia like unimportant, right? But they're overwhelmed with sort of the tasks that are going to come up every day, every week, no matter what. And they never get around to growing their business because they're overwhelmed doing stuff, but yet they won't pull the trigger on an assistant, or maybe they've not even thought about it. So as you're talking to agents, let me ask you, what are some of the excuses that you hear from agents who clearly need an assistant? They clearly need to stop doing everything themselves. Maybe they need to ask who, not how. That's a good book, by the way.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, who, not how. I kind of envision ARS as like the living version of who, not how, but that's another topic for another day.
That's a good one. Let's talk about that another episode.
There you go. You're booked. Tell me some of the excuses that you hear from agents about why they are afraid to pull the trigger.
Okay. I gave this a lot of thought as I was preparing, and there are 3 big ones that I hear often. The first one, I think, is probably the one I hear most, and it's, I'm not big enough for that. I don't make enough money. I can't afford that. Executive assistants are for the big guys, you know, the people with 3 offices, with giant books and giant teams. And I disagree strongly, because I think, and I know that several other agent coaches out there also preach this, that an executive assistant should be your first hire.
Wow.
Because when you become an agent, you're going through the training course and you get appointed as an agent, and you get your agency, and you think it's going to be, I'm going to sell and my name's going to be on the door and I'm going to hire my team. But what you don't think about is you become a business owner overnight. And there's stuff that goes along with that, like payroll and email and taxes and paperwork and compliance and all of these things, onboarding your employees, all kinds of things that you don't think about that are dumped on your plate day one.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should do that alone. I think you should invest in an executive assistant to help with those things, because it will take you so long and you will get so bogged down in all of the admin minutia that you'll have a hard time moving your business forward as quickly as you want. So I think an executive assistant should be maybe not the first. You probably want someone, answering your phone or, help greeting your customers when you come in the door. But I think it should be a pretty early hire to help you get your agency off the ground. And so I don't think it's unobtainium for agents to hire an exec up front.
Which this is blowing people's minds as they listen to it right now, because that's the first thing that I thought. I'm not big enough. I'm not a big President's Club multi-line person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if we're going to get to our particular business model, but with the Executive Sidekick program, and I think you hired similarly, where it's not a dedicated full-time 40-hour-a-week executive assistant that you're paying six figures to day one. We tried to make a product that was accessible for an agent to have 2-3 hours of help with whatever that is. And 2-3 hours of help and that stuff can save so much more time and can help them free up that time to move the business forward, to focus on the things that matter, like making money, hiring people to make money, all the things. And so I don't think that we need to look at it as I have to hire this in-person 40-hour-a-week executive assistant. And you got to pay them six figures, and it's this big status symbol, right? Like everyone thinks like, oh, that's for the big people, but it's really not. Ours is a very reasonable price monthly, and you get this person to help you, and they know what they're doing. They can help you take all that busy work off your plate, all the admin stuff that you really should know how to do, but not spend your time doing after you've learned how to do it. Then you hand it over.
For sure. Yeah. And I will tell you, when I hired my assistant, again, 6 months ago, the amount of time that she saved me. I mean, my assistant, even though, Chasity and I are buddies, she still reached out to you and your team to get you booked. And it wasn't because I was too good or too important. It's just that I've got a certain amount of hours in the day. And if I can save 2, 3, 4, not swapping emails, the better, right? And in fact, we've heard it this way: if I can save you time, I'm really making you money.
Yeah. And my assistant responded to your assistant. So I showed up. I was like, oh, he's on my calendar today. Yay.
You go.
So I'm telling you, it's a game changer. I was definitely one of those people that didn't think I was big enough, or, I don't have enough to hand over. I don't know what I would delegate. And I'm a year in. I started a company that had executive assistants and didn't have one. But I won't ever do it any other way, because I'm able to talk to agents, get on the phone with customers, train people, strategize, meet with my team, things that I would not have time to do if I were sitting there replying to the 80 million emails that come in my inbox.
That's right.
Responding to all the voicemails that come in on my cell phone, because I give my cell phone out. I want people to know that I'm accessible, but I have some help to weed through that. And I handle the things that I need to handle, and everything else can be handled or delegated by my executive assistant. So
somebody else.
I don't think anyone's too small. I think it definitely should be one of those very first hires that you think about as a business owner and agent, for sure.
So excuse one, I'm too small. No, you're not.
No, you're not. Hire one part-time. You'll see.
Yeah, that's right. So that's one excuse. So how about others?
Yeah. So the second one I hear all the time is, it doesn't take me that long to do. It's going to take me longer to show someone how to run my payroll than me to just do it. Right. And that was my excuse. I was like, I'm good at this. I'm good. It does take me that long. But those little 5-minute things add up. And before you know it, your day's gone and you've done a whole bunch of 5-minute things. Right. And switch between those 5-minute things. And so I've had agents go, I haven't handed that over because it only takes me 5-10 minutes once a month. And I'm like, okay, well, spend 30 minutes. And after your assistant does it 3 times, free money after that, free time. Like,
that's right.
You only have to invest the time up front once. And then you save yourself that 5 or 10 minutes every single time your executive does that. And so that's a big one. Agents don't want to invest the time to show them. They feel like, oh, I could just knock it out in the time it would take me to teach someone.
For sure. And they undervalue I think they underestimate how long things really take.
Yeah.
Like for instance, you say, okay, hey, to respond to that email, it's only going to take me 30 seconds, or a minute, right? But the reality is, I don't think they count the time that it takes to stop what they were doing and engage the email, think, type, disengage from that activity, and then re-engage whatever they need to, right? So you probably found it's never a minute. It's never 30 seconds. It's
Never.
2 or 3 or 5, or even if they're able to switch between activities fairly quickly, the good place where their mind works and is creative and thoughtful and smart really takes time to re-engage. So, that little thing that you think doesn't take a long time, it actually probably does if you started to add it up through the day.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm notorious for going down the rabbit hole. I see one email and I'm like, what happened here? And then 20 minutes later, I'm digging through notes and figuring out what's going on. And I'm on my phone with my team trying to figure out, how to handle the situation. And so it takes so much longer than you think. You're right. And business owners, we take different ownership and stuff like that. My executive looks at an email and she goes, oh, okay, well, this needs to go to such and such a handle. Whereas I'm like, oh, they're not having a great day. Let me, I'm owning this and I'm taking it. And that's not a bad thing. But if you have other things you need to be doing, disengaging from that, handing it over and focusing on the money-making task or investing in your team or investing in your customers in a personal way, rather than being bogged down in that stuff, is huge. And so the time investment, I admit up front, when you hire an executive assistant, you have to spend time. It's not going to work if you don't.
Correct.
It is a time investment, I admit. And it is very strange when an agent has to hire an executive and they have to set aside all that busy work they're used to be wrapped up in. And then they have to take the time to teach someone else how to do all of that while they ignore it, while it piles up, right? I went through this process, but after a week or 2 weeks or 30 days or however long it takes to get on the rails, the benefit's immediate. I mean, you will immediately breathe a sigh of relief knowing that those things are taken care of. And we're entering travel season. I don't know how many agents have let me know I did not have to bring my laptop.
Oh, what a huge!
Can you imagine?
Huge. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I watched you, Adam. You were at an event and you were just hanging out on your phone and we were all working. And I was like, man, Adam's living his best life.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, that last event.
No one hired me one, Adam.
What's up? But yeah, maybe I just don't have enough to do. But no, really. But I had my assistant at that moment, and she was taking care of all the stuff.
Yeah.
That would typically be on my plate. You made a really good point. I don't want to miss this. I think it was actually, I never thought of it this way. When you have an assistant, you actually also save not only time, you save your emotional capital.
Oh yeah.
That you disconnect from, how many things pull us. Like if we're the business owner, everything, I don't care what you say, everything's personal. All right. Yeah. If you're a liar, if you say it's just business and it's not personal, shut up. You're a liar. Okay. Every little thing tugs a little bit at our emotional capital. And if you have an assistant, that assistant is kind of detached from that. And they can deal with things, they can deal with something that's a little sticky and they can think of it differently than you can because they're not attached emotionally like you are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the biggest relief I've felt. I know. I am informed, but not necessarily involved in everything. Yeah. And that has been the biggest change for me because my day, whether it was a good day or bad day, was dictated by how my agent customers were feeling or how my sidekicks were out there feeling or how my team was feeling. And that's a good thing that I care. And that means, I'm doing it right. I think if you don't care a little bit, you're doing it wrong. It helps me handle things more rationally when I'm not emotionally involved in every single thing. The team can call me and say, okay, here's the situation. And I can say, here's what we need to do. And then it's done. I wasn't involved in the email exchanges and the back and forth and the situation I wasn't in the trenches in that moment. And it's saved a lot of emotional capital. You're right. Mentally, my load is so much less because I'm able to hand over, and I know we're harping on email, but there's so much other stuff. I mean, I've handed over payroll. In fact, today we ran payroll and quarterly like incentive bonuses. And all I had to do was, actually, I didn't do it. My husband did. But all we had to do was send an email and say, here's what we want. And it's done. We don't have to think about it again because we know it's done. Whereas we would have spent hours calculating and figuring it out. So the time investment is huge, but it saves you so much time on the back end for sure.
Huge. Amazing. All right. And then you said you had a third one that you hear. What's the third one?
This is a big one. And it's a little bit selfish that I bring it up because we're a remote company. You don't need your executive to be in the room with you. Okay. Agents think, oh, well, if I'm going to get an assistant, they have to be there. And I'm like, why? Why do they have to be there? I feel like the benefit of having one outside of the bubble of your agency is actually better. And I've had lots of agents agree, and they were skeptical when they came in, like, I don't know how I'm going to really show this person if they're not there. But we have technology now that allows us to screen share. We have cell phones, we have text messaging, we have Zoom, we have Teams. We have all of this technology that you can meet each other and get to know each other and have FaceTime without them physically being in your office. But the biggest benefit, I think, especially with agents and hiring an executive sidekick, is if you're handing over your inbox, you're the business owner, there's some stuff that comes in there you probably don't want your team seeing.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Your payroll, your commissions, bonuses, things like that. You don't want someone in your office knowing how much everyone else makes.
Yeah.
Right. Or who got a raise or who got the incentive and who didn't, unless you make that public knowledge. And so it has been a really beneficial thing to have someone outside of that bubble handle all of that. And they're not popping over the cubicle gossiping with the person next door. Right.
Yeah.
There's no personal connection other than knowing the team and obviously being part of the team and being the sidekick to the agent. But there's no personal investment in those things by the executive sidekick that would cause bitterness or weirdness. And so having someone outside of the bubble, I think, has been pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And it was a benefit we didn't intend. It was kind of unintended benefit, but we've learned as we've gone over the last couple of years with the program that it's been really great. Agents like having someone that's outside. It's like their person. It's like this trusted person,
right?
But separate from the in-office team in the right ways.
Man, I would second that. I'm in Kentucky. My assistant is not in Kentucky. In fact, I've never met my assistant full time. In fact, I interviewed, 6 or 7 people, and then I hired Jade. And we met through Zoom. But now, we have every tool. We have Zoom. We have WhatsApp. We have phone calls. And I will tell you, I second that. Now, so Jay's my assistant, not just for Front Runner, also my print shops. And I've got other businesses. I've got like an ice cream store. I think I've told you that.
Yeah.
Talk. And I've got other businesses, but she's there for everything. And I know that's not what Sidekicks does, but that's beside the point. But the big point is that, yes, that Jade is just as much a part of all of my staffs as any other team member. But the cool thing is her not being in the room actually gives a little bit of level of detachment from some of the scuttlebutt, the gossip, stuff that typically infects teams. My assistant is detached from that because she's not here. So I agree with that. That's been a really positive thing.
Yeah. I've never met my assistant either. April, shout out to April.
Hey.
I actually hired her. We had an interview on Zoom, chose her. She's in Virginia. I'm in South Carolina. We've never met. I plan to meet her in September. That'll be the first time we've ever met, but she's been with me since January at this point, I think, maybe. But I feel like I know her. We have weekly Teams calls. We have our standing meeting that we talk about the week, what's coming up, what's pending, all the things. She keeps me on track. And then we have a running text message and phone calls, however we need to talk, we do it. And she has all of my login. She has everything she needs. And we have technology set up that we don't need to be in the same room to be able to work together.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really neat. Yeah. Yeah. So I've never met her. You've never met yours. Maybe someday we'll meet our assistants, Adam.
Maybe someday. I don't know. Yeah. But even my wife is like, Jade knows more about you than I do. And I'm like, that's not true. Okay. But she probably does know more about the ins and outs of my day because my wife's doing her thing, right? She doesn't have time on my schedule, but Jade does. And so sometimes Jade has sent messages to my wife like, hey, Adam's doing this. And then my wife will text me like, yo, you can text me. And I'm like, I know, but Jade saw I was frustrated or whatever. So anyway, I'm not suggesting your assistant text your spouse. You should probably do that. But
well, I'll say this: we had at our last conference. Speaking of spouses, Jade does lots of things for you. Our executives aren't just limited to the agency. Obviously, we don't want our assistants, ordering your groceries and doing all that kind of stuff. But we do have agent customers that have side hustles or they have a rental property. We have one, she called me and she's like, oh my gosh, she manages all my calendars to include the big calendar in my kitchen, those electronic calendars, all the cheerleading practice schedules and all the, so she's syncing calendars and it's showing up at the home calendar. So we're not limited to the agency necessarily because you're a business owner. Life and business intersect a lot. And you want to make sure that you're keeping those things separate, but also synced so that they don't overlap and you can make sure that you are there. And so I mentioned that because we had spouses come up to us at one of the last conferences we were at. It was a wife that came up and said, tell me what this executive does because I'm tired of doing this stuff for my husband who was the agent. And so we sell spouses all the time.
It's like, I'm going to sell your spouse.
Your spouse and you're listening and your spouse is an agent. Send them our way. We'll help you.
We'll help you. Give you more time for you two. You all can actually go out to lunch now because your spouse is not busy doing all the stuff their assistant could do.
Absolutely.
All day. Oh yeah. In fact, tomorrow I'm getting on a plane going to New York with my wife for a day and a half for some meetings. And my assistant's doing all the stuff that I would typically do. And I can just go enjoy a night in New York City with my wife, which is fantastic. Would never be able to have done that previously. So, all right. Now I know we've mentioned, listen, if you've not already been sold on why you need an assistant, you're not listening, but I'm going to, let's talk Chasity about some, I know you've mentioned a few things, but let's go through a little list of things tasks that your assistant could do. Cause a lot of people would be like, I don't know if I have enough for them to do. You're wrong. So let's talk about some things that an assistant could do for you to save you time.
Okay.
So,
well,
those things I know we talked about them again.
Yeah. We've harped on it, but email inbox that's got to be first to go.
Huge.
100%. Huge.
Dude, people are addicted to their emails.
I'm one of those. That little thing pops up in the corner and I'm immediately, whatever I'm doing, I'm stopping it and I'm reading. And the switching cost is too much. So email, you got to hand it over.
Got it.
The biggest accomplishment, there was one lady, I love her. And she hired us about 3 months ago. And she said, Chasity, I deleted my email from my phone.
Huge.
And I was like, what? Think about the freedom, y'all. Can you imagine not having your email on your phone?
It would be life-giving. It'd be life-giving. I check my email twice a day, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And that's it. Jade's in there all the time. And if something very urgent I have to deal with, she texts me or she calls me, right? If not, she puts all of my emails in 3 little folders, right? One is called to do. That's where that needs my attention, right? The second one says no action needed. In other words, you might want to look at it, but no action is needed. And the third one is, it's kind of just like our front runner ticket system, right? But she's now at the point where she answers on my behalf. And less things are falling in my to-do box because she just knows how to handle it. And so she's just handling it for me. Right. But yeah, I check email twice a day. But it took a while to break the habit. It was like a habit, anytime I'd stop, check the email.
Yep.
But it was life-giving when I figured it out. So email can go.
Yes. We have the same folder system, Adam. I have a to-do, for review, and for reference.
Yep. There you go. That's it.
And I look at only those. I don't bother with the big inbox.
No
And
way.
so if I see that number, I leave it alone, or else my executive April will fuss at me. She's
That's
like,
right.
"Get out of there! I got it." Okay, email's big. Second, I would say payroll. If you don't have a good accounting company or a payroll company that you're contracted with, and you're sitting at ADP doing it yourself every single month or twice a month or however, hand that over. Teach them. They got it. And that includes with agencies, it includes the commissions and bonuses and chargebacks or whatever is involved in that process.
Right.
That is a huge time suck. And if you, the agent, are doing that, you don't need to be.
No.
You can look at it so that you have eyes on it, quality check it, make sure everything looks right. If that's the pulse for you, for your agency, but you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You just have to approve it. And so that's a huge one. It was one of the very first things that we outsourced. We don't have our executive do it. We have an accountant do it. But I have heard from so many agents that are doing it themselves. And so I highly recommend either outsourcing it or handing it over to your assistant.
For sure.
Because you don't need to do all that. And then if you have an accountant, but there's data that needs to get to them, hand that over, right?
And that assistant over, get them the data.
Exactly. Like I know Club Capital asks for data, right? That's a company a lot of agents use for their payroll and kind of tracking their metrics. But there's stuff that has to be handed over to them to have accurate data in the system. Have your executive pull that. They have access probably to your bank logins, to your payroll system, maybe to your trackers for your production and your commissions. Hand all that over. Don't do that yourself. And if you have an office manager that's doing that, that's great, but you could probably use your office manager to do other things.
That's right. You have an office manager for training, training your team, not running your payroll, because you're probably paying a whole lot for that office manager.
Absolutely.
Versus some of the resources that Sidekicks could give you, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
So email and payroll. What else?
Calendar management. I know I have huge. I have a Calendly that has 1 million calls that happen, and those go onto my Outlook calendar, but they don't go onto my Google Calendar automatically. And so syncing calendars, calendar management, giving your executive the guidelines for scheduling on your behalf, and then just allowing that to happen. Or if you can't make it to something, or you need to reschedule something, or there's someone you want to meet with, have them do that. Because the time you take with the back and forth and the calendar invites and, you shouldn't be doing it. And so that's it seems so small, but it's so huge.
You're like, I can put my own appointments on my own calendar. Boy, I'm going to tell you something. The freedom of not having an email exchange, like I'm available Tuesday, Friday, Monday at these time slots. How about you? Then waiting on that email to come back and back and forth and back and forth.
Yep.
Back and forth. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Get your assistant to manage your calendar. My assistant actually gets frustrated when I put things on my own calendar because there was something that I didn't understand or whatever. Right. But and think about the freedom that you have. Like when I log into my day, I go look at my calendar. It's okay. What's Jade got for me today?
Yeah.
And then I just do those things.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And it's kind of a fun surprise. You wake up and you're like, oh, look what's on my calendar today.
That's right.
I get to talk to Adam and do a podcast.
Come on. And April's your assistant, right? April put that on your calendar. Says, hey, this is what you need to be prepped for. And
exactly.
Then you're rocking and rolling. And you could probably even help get your assistant, if you struggle with time management or, leaving early enough, right? You could even get your assistant to program in that, like, hey, whenever you've got to be somewhere that's across town, that they're texting you before you need to leave, to say, hey, you need to be, if you're not in the car, you need to be heading out to that appointment because it takes you a while. And so they can even be used to sort of help you guide through your calendar, to help move you to the next thing. Because if you're like me, sometimes I need a little encouragement that I got to move on. Or that, hey, I need to leave because that appointment's across town or whatever the case may be.
And our executive sidekicks send what we call the daily digest. Some send it the night before to the agent, or if they send it super early morning before they enter the office with a, here's what's on your plate today.
Huge. I love
You
that.
have these calls at these times. Here are the meeting links. You have cheerleader practice across town. You have lunch with someone. So we're managing personal and business calendars and then putting it all in one snapshot and then helping you, the agent, customer, person, get there. Actually show up for the things that are on your calendar.
That's right. So you don't have to like lay in bed at night and think, oh, did I schedule everything? Did I do everything? You know, I'm making this. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see me circling my head with my hands. That's how I envision my brain going before I had an assistant.
Yeah.
You know, did I think about everything? Did I schedule everything? Am I missing something? And that assistant does all that for me. And calendar management is huge. All right. So we've got email, we've got calendar management,
Payroll.
We've got payroll. Anything else that you can think of?
Specific to our customers in the company that we work with, there's a lot of compliance stuff that has to be looked at. Agents have to keep tabs on things to stay out of trouble. Okay. They have big teams that are out there doing things. They're putting data in the system. They're writing policies. They're putting coverages in place. They're changing things around. And there are red flags that could fly if things aren't done properly. And so agents have to keep tabs on that, but that is not something the agent has to actually pull and compile and analyze. Our executives can pull all of that from most of the reports they can access, or agents can send them the report, and all the analytics can be done by the executive, and then can just present the agent with the, hey, all's good this month, or you might want to look at these couple of things. Or some agents even have the executive reach directly out to the team member that may have caused a red flag or maybe doing something and documenting what's happening there. And they have a record. So if they ever have to come to the table and explain something, they have data. Yes, I've been looking at it and this is what happened. So that for me and for our customers have been huge. Just to know that they're on top of keeping eyes on the things that they need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I've never even thought about that. That your assistant could keep you out of water, hot water, right?
Yeah,
keep you out of hot water.
Yeah,
because I mean it's not fun to think about compliance stuff, right? Sometimes you're like, they're always watching me and stuff like that. But I get it. Every company, every business needs some sort of a compliance, checks and balances, and your assistant could handle that. Would it be fair to say, Chasity, that you could almost pass off anything to your assistant that you have to do on a regular basis?
Yes.
Right? Anything that's kind of you always have to do it because it's always there and it's at a timed interval. You got to figure out almost any of those things. Give that over to an assistant, because if you do it on a regular basis, you probably have a system for it or a way that you do it, and you can teach that. And then you really truly have time to do what grows your agency, what moves it forward. Is that an accurate statement?
100%. I say that to agents every single day when I talk to them and tell them about our program is, if it's something you do that can be delegated, your assistant can probably handle that.
Sure.
I mean, travel arrangements, hotel rooms, team incentive programs, team accountability. We have some executives that send yesterday's call report out. Yeah. Just so the whole team knows what's happening and they're all kept accountable by this just little email. Meeting minutes, they can sit in or they can prep your notes. My assistant, we have trainings every 6 weeks. She compiles our training binders and ships them ahead of time so we don't have to travel on a plane with them. And so literally anything that, thank you notes. Every client that signs up gets thank you note. April's handwriting is better than mine. Okay. But we like that personal touch. Thank you for trusting us. And so if you've received a thank you note, April sent that. So little things like that, birthday gifts for the team, special, I don't know, something, whatever it is, if it's something you're doing or your office manager or someone in your office, that it's not necessarily moving your business forward, making you money, gaining you customers, hand it over.
That's right. Hand it over, right? And I will tell you, my decision to get an executive assistant started last November when I read a book called an author called Greg McCowan called Essentialism. And one of his points of the book, and also Who Not How, was figure out all of the things in your day that you do normally and you don't necessarily like to do, right? Write all those things down. And then your goal is to figure out how to delegate those away, because those things are important. It's not like those things don't need to happen. You need to check your email. You got to make sure your calendar's right. You got to follow compliance. You got to run payroll. But if you can figure out how to move those things over, see, getting an assistant, would you agree with this statement? Getting an assistant is not about not working. It's just about doing the things that only you can do.
Exactly.
And everything else that somebody else can do, get somebody else to do it, because you need to be the best version of you and the stuff that you can do. So, anybody delegate away the stuff that you don't need to do.
Yep, absolutely. My turning point was especially when your business is fairly new, or you're in a major growth pattern. We in the beginning of this year launched 2 new products. And then obviously we had just kind of gotten on the rails from launching the whole business 2 years ago. And I'm running another business on top of that, which is awesome, but everything is the brightest fire.
Yeah.
Everything, right? In your mind as the business owner. And so I was literally having to choose what to focus my time on, and everything else fell. My inbox would go 4 or 5 days without me touching it, because I was strategizing, I was planning, I was selling agents and making money and investing in my team, but things were falling through the cracks. And I was like, something's got to give. Surely there are things. And my husband is a big Dan Martell fan.
I love Dan Martell.
And he read Buy Back Your Time. Read it.
Fantastic book.
He read Buy Back Your Time, and he's like, we got to do this. And so we were preaching to agents to do it. We weren't doing it ourselves, because we were like, well, this is our business and this is our baby. We're like, we're no different than the customers we sell to every single day. We need help too. And we can invest money up front, but we have tenfold made it back.
Yeah.
By the time that has been freed up in our business for us to be able to do the money-making things and to pour in our team and to do the planning and the strategizing and the things that are moving us forward. And frankly, in my personal life, I'm able to cook dinner. I mean, we were a takeout family for the whole first year that we launched Sidekicks, and that's not good.
Yeah.
I'm able to engage with my kids in the evenings. I'm able to pick them up every single day at 2:30 in the afternoon and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I live in Carline for an hour and a half, but I'm able to do it because I know that my assistant's handling things while I'm not sitting at my desk and nothing's falling. I'm able to choose the things that structure my day in a way that makes sense, and I still have time for all the other stuff that truly matters.
Oh, I love the way you put that. Picture the stuff that you're not able to do right now. Picking your kids up from school, cooking them dinner most nights because you're so busy. Just if you need motivation, picture yourself doing those things, and that you will have the motivation. Which leads me to what the most important thing here. And I know your time's valuable, Chasity. Hopefully, April gave us enough time in your calendar. But let me ask you this. All right, I'm an agent. Okay, I'm convinced. I got it right. They're like, I don't know where to start. Right? Do I just go online and research executive assistant? Do not do that. We're going to give you the option right here. Let's talk about ARS. Let's talk about executive sidekicks. Walk us through what you guys can offer, because if you're like, I'm ready for an executive assistant, okay, here's how you do it. You don't need to look anywhere else. Walk us through the whole thing, how you guys come alongside agents, provide that. What are the steps? What are the costs involved? All that good stuff.
Well, first step is you can go to our website, arsidekicks.com. And that is where you'll find a demo video. It's just a very brief summary of what all we offer. I've pretty much told you today what we do, but you can hear it in a much professional manner in a video. And there is a link there to schedule an informational call. So Tara on our team, she is our director of sales. She's fabulous. And you can get on a live Teams call and get your questions answered. And if you can't find a date that works for you, then you can just send us an email. There's a contact us page right there, and we will get on the phone and make sure that you understand what the executive program does and does not do and how to get signed up for it. So that's usually the first step, is just making you understand what the program is all about and making sure that it's a good fit for what you need. And then from there, you can enroll. So if you're sold, if you're like, tell me no more, take my money. Cool. Go to that website and there's a hire a sidekick. And you can go there, you'll select executive sidekick from that website, and there's an enrollment form. There's a one-time sign-up fee of $1,000, and that is for us to customize your program.
Yep.
We match make you. We literally find an executive that has dealt with someone maybe in your area or a book size like yours, and then we do some matchmaking.
I love it.
And every one of our executives are experienced either in the industry or they're an experienced executive. We have a lot of them came from C-suites of big companies and they just needed to be remote. So we have the kind of experience that make fabulous executive assistants. They all get licensed, insurance licensed, so that they have access to the things they need in the system and all the proper agreements in place to keep us compliant in the placement. So you get signed up, we do the matchmaking process, and then we have what we call an onboarding call. You'll get introduced to your sidekick via email. They'll have a bio there. You're welcome to reach out to them and just have a conversation, make sure that the personalities are a good fit, because we do recognize this is a relationship with an assistant. It's not just the service person who's doing things behind the scenes. This is an interactive relationship. Sure. So we want you to feel good about it. And then we have a call where we talk about, here's a list of items we recommend you, agent, hand over, but what are your pain points? What are the things? And so what we try to do is we try to choose the top 3 or 5 things that you want to hand over like immediately. And we talk through those things. And then we come up with a wish list of things that you want to hand over eventually. Because what you want to do is you want to be building trust and handing things over gradually. You don't want to just dump it all in one day. I didn't. I handed over my inbox and then nothing else for like 2 weeks. And we built this level of trust and added things and kind of had calls to figure out how much time is this taking? What's this investment look like for you? How's it working for me? And then we evolved. And so we get you started with that call. And it's someone on our team, usually Christina or Sarah, will get on the call with you. You're a new executive, and they will walk you through how everything works. And then you will pay a salary directly to the executive on your payroll. That cost, do you want all those details?
Yeah, give us a range of what that might be, because you got an agent listening, think, okay, great, $1,000 makes sense, we can do that. Yeah. What's a salary range that they would expect to pay?
It's flat. If you have one office, $1,500 a month salary.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it. I know. And if you have multi offices, it's $2,000 a month, flat.
Unbelievable.
Now you got to recognize this is a part-time position, so you're not going to get 8 hours a day out of this executive. They are working for other agents. You can have them sign whatever agreements. They've signed a non-compete, non-disclosure with us. And so your data is secure. And even though they're working with other agents, they have these lines that they keep. And so your executive, you typically can expect 2-3 hours a day dedicated to you. And that's throughout the day. They're in your inbox at least 3 times a day, once in the morning, once midday, once in the afternoon to close out the day. Most of them are in there constantly because they're type A personalities. Yeah. They're type A personalities. They love this. The email gives them life. Email sucks my life away. Email gives them life. So they're helping you throughout your business hours all day long and switching between agents, but helping. Sometimes you'll get more time and sometimes you'll get less depending on what's happening with you. But overall, you can expect an average of 2 to 3 hours a day out of this assistant.
I mean, it sounds really simple because it is. I've talked to agents that have a sidekick and they do say it's simple and they love it. Yeah. And when you say that your team is really personable, they onboard, they do calls, that's right. I mean, I've been at events where a team member's breaking away to go have a Zoom call with somebody, a Teams call, whatever it is. They are one of the most responsive teams I've ever seen. So not only do I personally endorse it, I mean, Frontrunner personally endorses Sidekicks. And And we take that seriously because Front Runner serves a couple thousand agents and probably 15,000 team members. So whoever we put out, we got to really believe in. And so we really believe in this. And specifically for agents, if you don't have an assistant, I actually think you're losing money. For $1,500, $2,000 a month, and you're not doing that, you're losing money because you're not valuing your time.
Yeah.
How you value your time. Your time is the only commodity that you cannot go make more of. So what do? You got to maximize it. And the only difference, I'm convinced, in super incredibly, I'm going to say rich, but like just successful people in whatever they're doing, versus people that tend to sort of struggle and spin the wheel, is that the people that are successful are the ones who have figured out how to maximize their time, how to get every ounce out of it. And again, what does that mean for you as the agent? I think that you might value more money. Like that's what you're going after. Well, an assistant's going to help you to make more money because you're going to have more time to sell. But maybe that's not what you value. Maybe what you value is just more free time. You're going to definitely have that. If you just want to leave the office at 2:30, you can craft your day with an assistant to get that done.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's best said this way: an assistant will make your life better and make you better at life, because they will bring time and attention to what really matters to you. Is that a good way to put it?
100%. I lived that. When my executive assistant, sorry, I had to think of my thoughts. When my assistant, I hired her and she said, Chasity, how will we know we've succeeded in this relationship? What will be the marker? And for me, I was getting all the work done, just nothing else happened, right?
Yeah, sure.
So for me, it was, you'll know this is working when you see me go to the gym and cook dinner.
Yeah. Huge.
That's how, that was my success marker, and success. We've succeeded. And so I 100% agree with you, Adam, that for me, it's non-negotiable. I think every single business owner needs help. Personal help. And that's why the Sidekick program, the executive program, was so special to us when we launched it. It's something that no one else was doing. Agents, we have lots of ways to help the agents' teams. We have service help, we have phone help, we have financial services help, but we don't have someone helping the agent.
The agent.
Do the agent things, right?
That's right.
And so that's why this was so special, and it has literally changed lives. We had an agent hop on a phone call with me. We do personal check-ins with our executive agents once every 6 months. I like to talk to them on Teams, face-to-face. And she had her grandbaby in her lap. And she said, I couldn't do this if my executive weren't doing what she's doing. And I had other agents who got MOAs. They got another office. They were able to travel. They made whatever their goal was, they were able to accomplish it because they had help getting there. And we weren't bogged down in the other little things. They were able to work on the business and not in it. And that was huge.
Boy, that is life-giving, Chasity. And hey, as we wrap this episode up, that agents, I think that's what you need to hear. That's what you need to put in your mind. What is that thing that you wish you could do that you just don't have time? Whether it's grow your business, spend more time with your family, hold your grandbaby, go on a doggone date night, or a date lunch. You know, if you can't do those things because you're busy, it's not because you're too busy. We're all busy. It's because you've not maximized your time, and you can do that by hiring an executive assistant. And if you stumbled on this episode and you're not an insurance agent, there's all kinds of other ways to get executive assistants from other industries. But if you are a captive agent with one specific company, connect with us offline. We'll tell you what that is. You need to go to ARS Sidekicks. There's no other place to get it. There is no other vendor doing that. And they stand behind their words. So, Chasity, I know you're busy. I am grateful for the time today. Any final words for us before we wrap up the episode?
No, I really appreciate the time. Thank you for listening out there. And I am always happy. My team and we are available. So if you listen to this and you're like, how do I do it? Reach out to us, visit our websites. We would be thrilled to change your life.
That's right, man. So again, that is AR Sidekicks, like agency resource sidekicks.com. You can also go check out some of the other things that they offer, which are amazing. Go to agencyresourcesolutions.com. They'll give you ways to maximize not only your time, but your team's time, service time, all kinds of things. Chasity, again, thanks for being on the podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Adam.
Absolutely. Hey, that's going to do it for episode number 29 of To the Front. Wow. What an episode. You know, I hope there's somebody here listening that for the first time you've got hope, because Chasity has convinced you that it's worth it to stop doing it all yourself. This world's hard, man. Agency's hard. Don't do it alone. And especially when you can get in for $1,500, $2,000 a month, you can start to have you time. I will tell you this straight up. I often find myself with days where at 1 o'clock, I don't have anything to do. It's not because I'm a slacker. I promise you that. It's because I've figured out how to maximize my time. And there are some days I just have extra time. And guess what I do? I go spend it with my family, because that's what I really want most in life. So until then, man, until the next episode number 30, can't wait to share it with you. Quit doing it on your own. Go get a sidekick, get an executive assistant, and lead your agency to the top, and lead it for more than what this world will provide. Leave a legacy, the things that ripple. And that's what To the Front is all about. So until then, take care.